us might really not have a sweet tooth, but I know of a dessert that can melt everybody's heart. I'm talking about the Gajar Ka Halwa. I'm going to share a recipe with you that would not require the amount of time that the traditional method takes, but the taste is going to be still awesome. Let's get started. So here are carrots, the hero of this recipe. So I've taken red Delhi carrots. Most of the year these are available these days, but if you don't find these, you can use the orange ones as well. Just make sure they are really fresh and they break easily. Do not use the ones that have been lying in your fridge for a long time. So in a pan, I'm going to add a dollop of ghee. I don't really have to heat up the ghee, I just have to make it warm. I'm going to roast the grated carrots in it for like 2 to 3 minutes. I'm going to saute it for around 2 to 3 minutes. As you can see, while we saute it, the color of the carrots gradually changes. They get lighter. So it's been around 4 minutes. अब मैं इसमें डालूंगी शक्कर. जो हम घर में रेगुलर शक्कर यूज़ करते हैं मैं वही इस्तेमाल कर रही हूँ, बट आप चाहें तो ब्राउन शुगर, रॉ शुगर या किसी भी सब्स्टिट्यूट का इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं. एक बार शक्कर डालने के बाद हमें गैस को मीडियम या लो हीट पर करना है. मैं इसे एक बार अच्छे से मिक्स करूंगी, कवर करके इसे मैं हाफ एन आवर के लिए पकने दूंगी. इन दिस हाफ एन आवर 2 से 3 बार मैं इसको स्टर करूंगी. बिकॉज आई एम यूजिंग अ नॉन स्टिक पैन, आई एम रियली नॉट स्केयर्ड. सो आई हैव कवर्ड दिस विद अ लिड. इसे पकने में करीब आधा घंटा लगेगा. बीच बीच में मैं इसको स्टर करती रहूंगी. In this half an hour, the sugar will really nicely melt and the carrots will also absorb the flavor. तो आधा घंटा हो चुका है. जैसे कि आप टेक्सचर देख सकते हैं, चीनी पूरी तरह से मेल्ट होके घुल चुकी है कैरेट के साथ. So the bigger part is done. अब हमें इसमें डालना है दूध. Those who want to make this recipe vegan, they could add almond milk or coconut milk to it and some oil instead of ghee. Some almonds. I like the crunch that cashews give, so I don't really chop them very finely. So I've added all the ingredients. अब मैं 10 से 15 मिनट के लिए इसे पकाऊंगी मीडियम आंच पे, but now I have to keep on stirring it continuously. What we are doing here is, the milk will be really nicely absorbed by the carrots and they'll become tender and juicy. That way our halwa will be really delicious. This step will take around 10 to 15 minutes. So it's been 15 minutes that I've been cooking it. It's ready. So you can eat as many cupcakes and macarons that you want, but the taste that a Gajar Ka Halwa gives you, nothing can beat it. I'm just going to plate it and serve it.
Hi, I'm Shruti and I live in Singapore, and today on the festival of Holi, I'm making something colorful, something seasonal, and a dish that belongs to North India. I'm making Makki ki Roti and Sarson ka Saag. Let's get cooking. So let's begin with the Sarson ka Saag. I have taken here 2 to 3 cups of mustard leaves. This is about 2 bunches of chopped, cleaned and washed mustard leaves. I'm going to add this to a pressure cooker. And I have also cleaned some palak. This is exactly less than half of the mustard leaves that I have taken, and also I'm adding a bit of methi leaves. Technically we should be adding bathua leaves, but I did not find them here, so I'm using methi instead of that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a bowl of water to this. I'm also adding a little bit of green chili, just a little bit of ginger and garlic. So roughly about half a teaspoon of each, and I'm going to add some salt, and I'm going to pressure cook this for about 10 to 15 minutes. So while our sarson, palak and methi is getting cooked in the pressure cooker, I'm going to quickly prep for the Makki ki roti, which is nothing but yellow corn flour, and I'm going to make rotis out of it. So I have taken here 2 cups of the yellow corn flour, the Makki ka atta. I have taken a half cup of our atta, the normal roti ka atta. I have taken here 1/4 teaspoon of ajwain, that is carom seeds. I have taken here some salt to taste, and I'm going to add a teaspoon of oil, and I'm going to first dry mix this so that the salt and the oil is evenly spread in the flour, and I'm going to slowly add some warm water to this. So here you can see it's come to a dough consistency where it's clean. The Makki ka atta tends to crack a bit, hence you add the gluten, that is the atta to it, the normal roti ka atta. And this takes a bit of patience, about 10 minutes to knead a clean soft dough. And now I'm just going to cover this with a cloth, and I'm going to make it, I'm going to rest it for about 10 minutes until we start making the rotis. So now the saag, that is the palak, the sarson and the methi that I put to pressure cook is now looking ready. So until this cools down a bit, I'm going to get the tadka ready. So for the tadka, I'm going to start with heating my earthenware. That's the only traditional item I have here. So the tadka is the easiest part of this dish. And what is more time consuming is the cooking and the slow cooking of this dish. So I'm going to start with adding a bit of oil here. So I'm going to add about say a tablespoon of oil. You can use mustard oil if you have that at home. So I'm adding a teaspoon of jeera to this, a tablespoon of ginger, a lot of garlic. This is up to your preference. I'm adding here about 2 heaped tablespoons of garlic, because the more the garlic, the more the flavor of the saag. I'm just going to quickly stir this. I am adding half a tablespoon of green chilies. I'm going to quickly cook this down before I add the onions and the tomatoes. I'm also adding a big tablespoon of ghee. If you want to skip the ghee, you can add a bit of oil for the tadka, the extra oil. This is just going to add some flavor to the saag. So I'm just waiting for the color of the ginger and the garlic to change a bit. I don't want to burn them entirely. So once the raw smell goes away, I will immediately add the onion. So now you can see it's looking a bit cooked. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a big onion. I have chopped it really fine. So now while this onion is cooking, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to shift the attention to the saag here. Add about a tablespoon and a half of Makki ka atta to this. And I'm going to switch on the flame, and I'm going to let this cook slowly. So keep moving this and stirring this as much as you can while you make the tadka. Eventually you're going to just coarsely blend this with a hand blender, but do not make a paste. Just keep a bit of the chopped veggie consistency here. So now, as you can see, the onions have become a little brown. So I'm going to add about 2 medium-sized tomatoes to this. What I'm going to do is now add a bit of salt. Be careful because you've added salt to the saag as well. I'm going to add a small teaspoon of Kashmiri red chili powder, half a teaspoon of haldi, a teaspoon of dhania powder, and very little garam masala. So I'm just going to quickly stir this. And I'm going to let the tomatoes completely cook down and become soft. So this is going to take you about 5 to 10 minutes roughly. I have an earthen pot, so it might cook down a bit more faster because this vessel retains a lot of heat. So while this is cooking, let me show you how the saag is looking now. It looks quite homogeneous because of the makki ka atta that you added. And you have to constantly stir this and kind of put a lot of pressure while you stir it, so you're mashing it at the same time. That this is how it looks. So it needs to be more creamier. So continue cooking this. If you want to speeden up this process, you can totally cool this down and grind it in a mixie coarsely. But I'm just cooking this down as much as I can along with cooking my tadka. And keep the flame really slow because the high chances of it burning or on the bottom of the vessel. So as you can see, the tomatoes have completely cooked down and it's become a mush, and the masalas have roasted really well. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to add this whole saag to this tadka, and I'm going to continue boiling this on very slow flame for another 10 minutes. Until then, we can start the makki ki roti. So as you can see, I have continued cooking this on very slow fire. I added a little water just to loosen this up, and I am going to continue cooking this for another 5 minutes and switch it off. So as you can see, I have cooked this down on slow flame for about 15 minutes after I put the tadka. At this point, you can totally blend this coarsely by the hand blender, or put it in a mixer grinder if you need it more creamy. But I prefer it this way, the rustic vegetable as it's supposed to be. So this is how it looks. You can see the consistency of the vegetable. It is creamy definitely, but you can see the stems and the leaves as well. So I'm going to leave it like this, and I'm going to garnish this with white butter in about a few minutes. So let's begin with the makki ki roti. I have rested this dough for about 10 minutes. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to break this, and I'm going to add a little bit of ghee and just knead this for another 2 minutes. So after I have mixed some ghee, the dough has become nice and soft. So I'm just going to dip my fingers in the normal roti ka atta, and I'm just going to take a small ball, and I'm just going to knead this a little bit on my palm. And while pressing this, I'm just going to dip this in the atta, and I'm just going to press the corners of the roti. Start making the roti in your hand first, and I'm just going to put this on the platform, and with very light hands, be very, very soft with the roti. Do not make it very thin. So now on the hot tawa, I'm going to just put the roti on, and I have made it half an inch thick. So now you can see a few bubbles on top. I'm just going to turn it. Just lightly press it. If you want to avoid these cracks, you can totally add a little more atta to this, but then let these cracks remain, as the corn atta flavor should be retained in the roti, or else it is going to taste just like a normal roti. So just check for a few brown spots. So I'm just going to put this directly on the flame. And as you can see, it will slightly puff up. And be very patient, it needs to brown a bit. So this looks ready. I'm just going to garnish this with a lot of white butter. Make sure you are generously putting this so that the roti doesn't dry out. Finally, the sarson ka saag and makki di roti is absolutely ready to eat. I have added a lot of safed makhan to this. Do not be stingy in adding this. This is going to add a lot of flavor to this. I'm definitely going to taste this. The rotis are nice and soft, and I'm going to dip this in a bit of saag. It's a bit spicy, it's a bit tangy with the tomatoes, and the taste of mustard leaves is absolutely unmatched.